Good morning, Dream Team. I am excited to say that I am here with Terrence Li. He is a warrior friend of ours, and he has stepped up with me to share his wisdom, his story, a little bit about himself. And ironically, he actually went to Vancouver Island University, which is in my hometown. So we have similarities and connections there. So let's introduce Terrence Li. Hi, Terrence.
Hi, Debbie. How's it going?
It's good, thank you. So we'll start off just a little bit. Tell everybody who you are, introduce yourself, and let us know your background maybe and all about, yeah.
Of course. So I'm a French-Canadian born Chinese. My story is a little bit long, and the reason is because it's been such a long journey for me to get to this point where I am actually living the best version of myself. So first of all, where should I start? Well, obviously, I would like to start from the beginning, and that's more or less when I was born in a way. So my parents were immigrants, and they moved here to Canada. I realized that I was indoctrinated by their values and their beliefs that they had from China. And when I came here, or when I was born here, I kind of used their beliefs and values, which did not go very well. And the reason is because the life here in the West is so much different in comparison to the East. My depression really started when my previous girlfriend's mother had lung cancer. It was a very traumatizing and devastating point of my life. And one of the reasons is because I felt that she was actually like my actual mother in comparison to my real mother. And the reason is that she showed me unconditional love versus my mother, who never showed me that. And she only showed me conditional love. So I was placed on what you call like a pedestal to succeed in the world. And I only received love from her for all the things that I did that she wanted and not what I wanted. So I had a lot of inner conflict within myself. And after the fact that my previous girlfriend's mother died, it was devastating because I didn't have that support anymore. I didn't have that love anymore. So I was really much against my mother at that time, and there was just so many things going on because I started to question the relationship that I had with my mother. I started to question the relationship that I had with my friends and why I came about being so negative, so narcissistic, having low self-esteem, and not being able to achieve my own goals rather than the goals of someone else.
Someone else, yes. I'm dealing with that right now.
Yeah, so it didn't turn out to what I wanted. And basically, one of the most life-changing moments that I had in my life was when my previous girlfriend's mother was laying on her deathbed. And she stated that she should not have a daughter. She shouldn't have married her husband. She should have had someone else. She should have lived a different life. On her deathbed, she started regretting so many things. And when I heard this, I was shocked about this because this type of stuff never happened in my life. I've never seen someone suffer so much, and especially when you're regretting like your life for that long, it had such a huge impact on me. So at that point, that's when my depression started. And I had a little bit of what you call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from that. And I started to challenge myself, and especially with my work, my career. I was like, why am I in this job that I'm not passionate about? Why am I wasting my time? Where am I going in the future? I didn't see like a good path for me. So at that time, I still wasn't able to take any action. I was still being conservative, and I was just being complacent. So I stuck with the job until a year, until I had the guts to actually tell my boss, if you don't give me a $10,000 increase in salary, I'm leaving. So what happened there was,
Good for you.
yeah, I finally had some self-worth for myself.
Yeah.
But what happened then was they counter offered, and they offered me 2.5K, so 2,500. And then I was like, oh, 2,500. Well, it's something at least. So I decided to accept the offer. But when I accepted the offer, my boss told me that the offer is off the table. And she said that, oh, my work wasn't as good as before. So that made it even easier for me to quit my job. And it kind of pushed me even further. I was like, there's no point staying here because I'm unhappy. And I realized that even if you gave me all the money in the world, still wouldn't be happy. I would still be miserable.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
So I went through, so while I was working, because I was still depressed from the traumatic event that happened to my previous girlfriend, I kind of used it. I sort of had so many things going on in my life. I had 4 jobs. So I had my day job, I had a night job, I had my side job, and I had my own personal job. And the reason is because I wanted to escape my feelings. I wanted to not feel those raw emotions from the traumatic event I had. And this was a year after, and I didn't know because I've never actually felt those emotions because I was always trying to escape from it.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I just quit my job and I try to, in a way, try to find a new path.
Yeah.
And I went to this spiritual event by Eckhart Tolle. He's
yes. Yeah.
pretty famous. If you don't know him, you should follow him. So his
The Power of Now.
Yeah, The Power of Now.
I love it.
Amazing book.
Yeah.
It changed my life. That's what gave me the courage to quit my job because someone gave me that book to read. And if you're in a miserable state and you can change it will change your life forever.
Yeah.
So,
powerful book for sure. Highly recommended.
Yeah, definitely. So I went to his spiritual retreat in Norway, and I did a little bit of traveling in Europe, and it sort of opened my mind so much. Just first of all, I realized that Europe is a more open culture in compared to North America. That's because we're more of a capitalist country, and they're more relaxed. They're enjoying life. They don't compare each other. They don't judge each other. In comparison to North America, we have so much social media these days that we use it all the time. We're also focused on it, and we're comparing ourselves with one another.
Yeah.
There's they don't use social media as much, and they're really there's no advertising whatsoever. So it's a different world out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I went after going to his spiritual retreat. I didn't realize that once you go to a retreat, you receive a lot of energy. You feel refreshed after coming out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't. So my lifelong dream was actually to open a dance studio.
Cool.
So
yeah.
When that happened, after I came back, that's what I did. But I met a lot of resistance from my friends, from my family, and the reason is because they were the same as me. They were negative, they were judgmental, and they were closed-minded. So it wasn't helpful whatsoever when I opened my business because I got all this criticism from them. And it hurt me in my business, in my personal life, and it hurt me in so many ways.
Yeah.
So what happened was I failed miserably. In a couple of months, I closed down. I still had a 1-year lease on the rental property, and I didn't use up the whole rental property for a year. So basically what happened was I signed a contract and I had to abide by it and pay the cost for it. And that's really when I sank into my lowest point of my depression, where I was hallucinating. I was screaming, I am not in my body. This is not my reality. I couldn't accept where I was in life. I couldn't believe that I was such in a miserable state. And that's when, it was just at the point where I even attempted suicide because of it.
Yeah.
So what happened at the lowest point of my life was that I did not take a shower for like 3 months. I did not eat. I was not, mentally sane at that point in my life. So I mostly stayed in bed like almost 16 hours a day. And I got to a point where I was like, why am I in my bed all the time? I started to question myself. Why am I in such a miserable state? Like, I need to do something about it. Like, this cannot continue on, because what happens is that I was just so depressed that the fact that you can change your mind state from depressed to angry, and then angry to complacent, and then complacent to good. That's how I got out of my depression. So what happened was I started journaling 6 to 8 hours a day to find what my problems were, to find the root of my problems so that I could solve it. Yes, there was a lot of trial and error, but it was worth it. So what happened was after journaling 6 to 8 hours a day, I started my own blog called www.millennialspath.com, where I write about my own experience. And I actually wrote my own ebook called Get Angry, Conquer Your Depression with Constructive Anger. And I have had a lot of sales for that, and I'm so grateful today that I'm able to help so many people change their lives in, getting out of the lowest point of their life to becoming the best version of themselves. So a little bit of my story, but if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and ask me.
A lot of the things that you talk about dealing with the depression and, the hallucinations and the constant voices asking yourself, like, why? What am I, right? Like when you're at that deep, deep place of darkness, you do tend to question everything and what's the purpose of life. So there was a part of light, there was light inside you that knew that what you needed to do, but the darkness was still, like the hurt from your family, from your friends, from people that surround you on the outer world that didn't understand where you were coming from. That caused more of the darkness for you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it is real. Like, it does happen in our society where, we have a great idea, and then somewhere along the line, someone doesn't believe it. And one thing I truly want to see happen in our world, because there's so much division with religion and, different beliefs. Who cares what we believe as long as we're united together, connected, and we support each other? And that goes with mental illness too. If you think differently, if you hear differently, if you see differently, if you feel differently, taste differently, that's okay, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It just means that we're different, we're unique, we're all unique.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes we forget that if we look inside ourselves rather than to compare ourselves to the outer world, that's where we get lost, because we're not being true to who we really are, which is we all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. Yep. We all want to feel worthy and love ourselves and be loved, right? So what you're saying hits home to me so much. And, it's people like us who have hit rock bottom, have dealt with anxiety, panic, voices, hallucinations, whatever it is, that have the powerful minds to do, because I believe that we're go-getters, like we're creators. We've got the mindset that, depression comes from us fighting our inner battles with ourselves,
Yeah,
knowing that there's something different, but we haven't figured it out yet.
for sure.
You know what I mean? And then once we figure it out, wow, we're passionate. And, you know, the sky isn't the limit, it's our thoughts, right?
Yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, yeah, go ahead.
I just, I guess I just wanted to touch on the fact that, your family members are supposed to be supportive. Your friends are supposed to be supportive. But when they are not, I had a problem previously before of letting go of all my high school friends, which weren't serving me anymore because I grew as a person and they are on a different path in their lives. So the fact that we're on different paths, we don't have to keep on connecting. It's the fact that we're just so afraid to go out there in the world to make new relationships with people. That's what that's what gets us stuck.
That's right.
Because we're just not open-minded enough to interact with other people and to be with other people in those ways.
Yeah, that's right. Like open mind, open heart, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, our minds are so powerful because whatever's going on in our world creates our reality. You know that, right?
For
So
sure.
if you're negative and you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself, like suicidal, I'm unworthy, I'm not lovable, whatever it might be, there's so many, we could use any of them, then that's what you're going to create in your life, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I always say if we come from a place of our heart first and foremost, then that negativity can't be held in the heart. It won't. There's no negativity when it comes from the heart. The negativity comes from the thoughts in our mind.
Yeah. And the thoughts can kind of lead you in the wrong path, or it can lead you to the greatest life that you've always wanted.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that is really important for me to see for our future is our children.
Of course.
Educate our children when they're super young, like just able to talk, that there's choices. There's only two choices you can make, right? And that's fear, right?
Yeah.
Or love. And to be kind and empathetic and compassionate and caring and understanding, and right?
Yeah.
Instead of what they're learning right now, which is a bunch of fear in our world, right? And I mean, you just look at the statistics, how many teenagers have anxiety?
Yeah.
Well, that's based on fear.
Yeah.
Right? So that to me is really important too.
So I wanted to share just my experience. My parents, I realized that their relationship, they actually don't love each other. They're only together due to economical factors. So because they have a house together, they earn money together, and they don't want to get a divorce because of that. So they stay in an unhappy relationship. And what happened was I subconsciously learned that being in an unhappy relationship is okay, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I believe that, because they're fearful of not having money or losing everything, that they stay miserable because of that.
Have you been able to plant any seeds with them about, happiness? Happiness doesn't come from money. You know that. I know that.
Yeah, doesn't come from money at all. I've tried, but because they've lived so long in their ways for so long, it's very difficult. And when I communicate with them, sometimes I get resistance from them. I get a lot of negativity from them. So I have to actually, protect myself first instead of serving them, right? So what I do is I draw a line between them, and if they cross over my line, I just have to get out of there. Like it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I always use that analogy. Like when you're on a plane, you have to put your oxygen mask first before the person beside you unless both of you became
Yeah.
unconscious and think.
That's so true, Terrence. You know, like the biggest thing is love yourself first and foremost, and that includes your temple, self-care, everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then spread your love.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. Um, your your parents have like that, like you say, it's a learned behavior, so it's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think for us that are at a different level of like we know what happiness is all about, we have to still respect where they're at,
Yeah.
right? And then you know, like I'm sure you've forgiven them for
Sure.
you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
You've
fact
done all
it's the fact that, you know, I don't blame them whatsoever because their characteristics are built from their parents and their
exactly.
past parents and their previous parents. So because we're all byproducts of our environment in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't always be judgmental about them that they should be this way. They're on their own path and I'm on my own path. And
Exactly.
and if
Yeah,
you trust yourself, you're gonna be on your right way.
yeah, that's awesome. And you know, that is so true. And the thing is with mental illness, and I'm sure you agree to this. You can tell me if you don't.
Okay.
It's, you know, illness is real, trauma is real, pain is real, abuse is real, and so is fear. So all of those things are negative. So that is what causes the illness in our body and the mental illness because we're basically prisoners of our own mind in this vicious cycle of fear and pain and trauma and abuse, like you say, from living with your parents who weren't in a happy environment. So what does that do to you as a little boy,
Well,
right?
yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes me unhappy. It makes me that because you know your parents are basically the prime example of how your other relationships will be.
yeah.
So the reason why I fell in love with my previous girlfriend was she was exactly like my mother. She
Uh,
had no self-esteem. She was narcissistic. She was judgmental because I did not know other types of relationships. So people who came to me who had high self-esteem, who were really safe in their own place,
yeah,
they what happened was back then I rejected those types of relationships because I wasn't used to it. I was
yeah,
like, no, you have too much high self-esteem. You're making me look bad. Please don't be around me.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's because that's your learned behavior, right?
Exactly.
But once you step up and you realize, wow, this is powerful, and right, you're helping so many, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything.
that's awesome. So okay, so now tell us where you're at right now with your blog, and you've done YouTube videos as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can share your YouTube, all the videos that you do with the group, that would be awesome. Like every one that you do,
Okay.
and then just tell us what you're doing now and where you see yourself going with this.
Yeah. So when I was in my depression and I started my blog, it was just more of a trial and error type of thing. It was just like trying it out a little bit, trying to find my way. And excuse me, did you say something?
I said, yeah. Oh no, I was
Yeah.
agreeing.
So yeah, it was just kind of testing the waters because previously, like I told you, I opened a dance studio. I realized I have a more creative side rather than a more analytical side since I was previously working as a research financial planner. And that's more on the back end where you're doing databases and kind of using Excel all the time. So
Right.
I'm at the point where I'm expressing my creative side by writing on my blog, doing YouTube videos. I do coaching for mental health, for depression, for financial planning, and also for stock trading. And at the moment, I see myself helping people. I think that's one of my main priorities in life. And then my second main priority is to actually keep this going, because right now I'm living the best version of myself, and I want to continue doing this. So I just want to state that I write blogs and I do YouTube videos, not for the people that are watching it, but I do it for myself first. Like I said previously, I always do things for myself first, but I realize that when I do things for myself first, I'm actually helping other people and I'm sharing my experience.
Do you know what? That's so awesome you say that, because I created my group to help heal me, because I don't know if you've watched my story, but my kids and myself have a genetic disorder. My son has autism, and just recently I've had a bunch of things happen, like anxiety, panic disorder, all that stuff, right? So I thought, oh man, like, what can I do? So I created this group, basically, like you say, to heal myself, but help others.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then the other thing, when we were like 2005, my son was unsuccessful in the school system because they didn't understand, and special needs and all that. So we created a learning center. So I've always been one to be creative like you and do something about it, rather than, try and not do something or whatever, right? So yeah, you're so right. First and foremost, warriors out there, you have to look after yourself. Love yourself first, because without us, there's nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They're miserable, they watch TV, and then it just repeats itself in a negative cycle. And it never stops for them until they reach a point where they're retired and they're like, I just wasted all my life. I want it all back. And it's very sad when I hear these stories from people. Like I want to wake people up from
yeah. That's exactly it, right? I hear you. And it's so true. Like, I don't know. It's
because we've all established our own routines. We know what's going to happen Monday to Friday and then Saturday to Sunday. And we just live our life out in what do you call mediocrity. And we kind of never push our limits. And the fact when we never push our limits, we're never going to succeed because of that. And we're going to be miserable. Because as humans, I believe that we all need to grow, no matter what age you are.
Open to learning, open mind. Like, yes, always, we'll never know enough. Do you know what I mean? Because it's changing, it's evolving all the time.
For sure.
And as long as we're open to that, right?
Definitely.
And the other thing, when you mention about living in misery, I know that when it's my time to say goodbye to this world, I know what's important to me. And that is not the fancy car, not the fancy house, not the money in the bank. It's the people that are surrounding me with love, and the love that I've shared with my world, my universe, and having absolutely zero regrets. Right?
Yeah.
And everybody thought of that, like, we're born to be alive. Somewhere along the way, as we grow up from a baby, we've been convinced of false beliefs of who we are. And most of those thoughts are thoughts of, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, you're not athletic, you're not right, you're not lovable, whatever. And then the alcohol and the drugs, when you reach teenager, young adulthood, it's not the problem. It's basically the spark's already there from our development, right? The alcohol and drugs is the fuel to light the fire.
Yeah.
But the spark's always been there. And what we got to realize is our children matter, and we have to educate them. It's really like, I'm really I'm really passionate about the children because they're really starting to grow up in fear.
Yep.
And I'd love to see programs go out worldwide where they teach children to embrace their uniqueness, to learn from each other. Because someone with autism, like my son, yeah, they definitely learn differently.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you connect to them in their world, they have so much to offer, so much to teach us.
Yeah.
And it's at a higher level. It's at an awakening level. It's not at the zombie level where you're asleep, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have to get into their world in order to connect.
Yeah.
And I think my purpose, like I'm 50 now, and that's when all my medical stuff started happening. So I started to hear things internally. I started to see things. Like it was lots of stuff, right? And I believe that I was meant to go into my son's world a little bit by experiencing it myself. Now we do have a genetic thing, but I do believe that it's our purpose. It's my family's purpose. You know, we were born with it. So when you're born with something, you got to go with it. It's right.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And that's a message that I think that we need to get out to all the zombies is we're all born to be alive. We're not born to be zombies.
Exactly. I love the fact that you use the word purpose. Because I feel like a lot of people, like I said previously, like everybody's a zombie. They don't know what their purpose is in life.
Exactly.
And it's very important. And that's why trial and error is so crucial in whatever you're doing or whatever you believe in. You have to try it at least once or experience it to actually feel what the other person is feeling, to actually experience their emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I find a lot of people who are online who are sharing their experience with mental health. They're the ones that actually get picked on because we're considered different because of that.
Yeah.
But it's because they don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
How you are with your child.
Well, and you know, the thing is, Terrence, you probably understand this too, is us that struggle with mental illness, we actually think about it. We're creative. We know that, right? You look at the artists, you look at the musicians, they all have some sort of internal battle going on with themselves, right?
Yeah.
And if we can wake them up and realize their highest version of themselves, like you say, think of the masterpiece we could create to make a better world.
That would be awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
I see it. And this is our purpose. Our purpose is to wake everybody up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think I can tell by your energy that you're full of light and you're very intuitive, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that about you?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is great. So going forward, what are your plans? Your dreams?
My dream is I'm at the point where I want to create a more supportive environment for myself specifically because I never had that in my life. So I'm actually going out there. I'm kind of taking what I learned in Europe and applying it here in North America because our values and beliefs are different. So we act different here. So in Europe, it's so easily to connect with someone. Like at a coffee shop, you just walk up to them and you start a conversation, and you can just get a feel of their world. But here in North America, we're kind of more individualistic. And when you walk up to someone, they give you a weird face, or they're or backing off a little bit, like they're scared of you. So even the fact that they do people do this to me here in North America, that's not gonna stop me from creating relationships with people.
Yeah.
And so for me, at this point, I want to help people financially and also build their self-worth, because I think that's very important. One of the reasons is because when you have high self-worth, you're going to attract other people with high self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, because I always believe who you surround yourself with, you become, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Such a great influence on
Yeah.
you. So this is the network of relationships that I want for myself, and that I know that they can help me in succeeding in what I'm doing with my blogs, my YouTube videos, and getting my message out more clearly, concisely, and quickly.
Yeah. Well, we definitely will help each other do that, because we're on the same page, brother. Yeah. And I think it's time, because our world is in crisis right now. Like, look at all of the addictions and the overdoses and the suicides.
Yeah.
And the homelessness. It's really sad, like, when you think about it. And I know that mental illness requires a village. Like, you need so much support, professional support, love, family. But I also know that they also have to somehow realize that they need to do some self-awareness work, right? Like you did, right? Like, even having books like Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, or Wayne Dyer, or, like all of those really inspirational, motivational, positive affirmations about yourself. I am powerful. I am a warrior. I am strong. I am loved, right?
Yeah.
And I'd like to see, like, something like that, because you go into support groups, and I love support groups. I've been I've been involved in support groups since my son was pretty well almost born, because of his issues. And then when we got the genetic testing, I went into support groups for my disorder.
Yeah.
So, but I find in the support groups, they're not really working on themselves. It's more a place to vent, right?
Yeah.
So this is where I kind of thought, okay, if I can create something where people can help each other, rather than just, oh, this is what's going on, how do I deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So if you can create something like that and share it to you know what I mean? Like, I think it's really important for us to really look at ourselves rather than our situation that we're in.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah. Because once we do that, I think, like, that gives us more strength. We're growing from our pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just share my experience with all this. So like you said, I also went to support groups, and it is more just like venting, and you're not really challenging your thoughts. When you challenge your thoughts, you're able to take action. So I got help from a life coach, and that's why I started coaching myself, because the value of coaching is so crucial. And I also got help from psychologists who focus primarily on narcissism. And and I didn't know that I had so many narcissistic characteristics that I developed from my parents.
Yeah.
But now that I've stopped, it's so much different, because when you don't challenge your thoughts, you stay in the same place.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna be in a negative cycle, in a negative mindset, that it's gonna continue on and on. You're gonna say those negative things to yourself every single day.
Yeah. And you're feeding yourself that negativity all the time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I always say to my daughter, like, when she has a messy room, if your thoughts are in chaos, like you're in, right? Then you're going to live it. And I always say to her, like, look at your room, right?
For sure.
It's similar. It's stuff like that, right? Like if you're in pain and trauma, look how many hoarders there are,
Of course.
right?
I totally agree with that because I think, you know, even whatever we say, whatever our action are, it's basically a reflection of ourselves.
Yes.
We're projecting that into the real world,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's our pain, whether it's our negative mindset, whether it's our judgment about others. When we're judgmental about others, we're actually, you know, very judgmental to ourselves.
Yes. It's a reflection of who we are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Well, we've been on for 42 minutes, so it's kind of long. I don't like to go over half an hour, but you're amazing. And I've really gotten a lot from you. And I like, yeah, you're all about happiness. I can tell.
Thank you for having me here today, Debbie, and taking the time to do this interview with me.
Yeah, and I will I'll get you a copy of it so that you can share it to your world as well. And we'll stay connected because once you're a warrior friend, you're always a warrior friend. So
Thank
we
you.
are the dream team. We are the dream team.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.